Well, the NFL released their protocols for the players and how they can practice on Sunday. So the NFL said that the players can attend the practice facilities, but they must practice outdoors and wear a mask. They will also enter through automatic doors just for the players and staff, and all the frequently touched surfaces will be cleaned 3 times a day. The NFL advised the teams to conduct virtual meetings when possible. They will also be 6 feet spacing between the lockers. And something that is going around right now is that the preseason might only be 2 games instead of the ordinary four. So, Jason, did you think the NFL made the right decision with these rules in place?
Yeah, I did. I feel like these protocols will greatly reduce the chance of players catching COVID-19. And I also really like the 2 preseason game change that they're planning to make. I feel like the preseason games aren't exactly necessary, especially in this time, even though the players won't get enough experience trying to blend in with the new schemes and things like that. I feel like it's okay just having 2 games. I also think that the protocols will ensure the safety of everyone, including players, staff, coaches, everyone like that. And from the protocols, I think it's very well planned out. It seems to be very effective. And I like how Roger Goodell, the commissioner, has made the protocol flexible as the research and knowledge grows about COVID. What about you, Alvin? What do you think?
I have to disagree on this with you, but I like the thought out process here. But in the end, football is still a contact game. You're still gonna make contact with people. It's gonna end up spreading. But I liked how they're trying to limit this process. But I gotta disagree on you this one. What do you think, Jeremy?
Yeah, I think this was the safest and easiest way for them to start playing again. I mean, the NFL is being a little bit more safe than other leagues like the NBA and the NHL, but that's because they have more players. So they have the risk of more players getting the virus. So I think they're a little bit more safe, and I think this is the first step in making the season start because the NFL is planning to start as scheduled. So I think this is the first step towards that.
Well, one thing Jason said was that the preseason to 2 games. I kind of like it, but sometimes people take the preseason for granted because the preseason is where you can see all these undrafted free agents, all these 6 round talents, all these players that weren't drafted in the first or second round prove themselves into becoming into that 55-man roster. That I think that's a really important factor into this NFL roster decision.
I agree with you, Alvin. I don't think it's the best scenario to have only 2 preseason games, but I feel like teams will be able to cope with it. Obviously, what you said, we're going to discuss later, so let's get on with it.
Yeah, so how much of a difference do you think these rules make to the players?
Well, I think it makes it tough for rookies. It obviously depends on who you are, but it's definitely going to make it harder for rookies as they have to learn to integrate with the team system and scheme. And along with, like Alvin said, the preseason is taken for granted by a lot of people. It is a chance for players to prove themselves, but also that's what training camp is for as well. The less preseason games there is less of an opportunity, and that might be a problem. That will be a problem for teams as they try to put the best players on their roster. And I think you can expect boring or worse than normal football for the first 3 to 4 weeks of the season, obviously because the rookies and new signees for each team have had less of a chance to be able to fit in with the scheme. Once the third or fourth week of football is over, then I feel like football will be back to normal. But one thing, some people that it won't change too much for is the veterans on the same team with the same coach. You look at Green Bay, like Zadarius Smith, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, people like that. They're already into the scheme. They already know what's going on. another team like the New Orleans Saints, they have Sean Payton as their coach. They've been having him for years. They have Drew Brees, Michael Thomas. All those people are already integrated into the scheme and the system. So as you can see, it will mostly affect the rookies and players on new teams and players whose teams fired and hired new coaches.
Yeah, I agree with you right there. One thing I think, like you said, all the coaches, all these players are into these game plans. They recognize it. But one division that will struggle in this area will be the NFC East. Three of these teams have new coaches. The only team that doesn't is the Eagles. Eagle, Eagles have Doug Peterson, but otherwise, all three teams have new coaches. That will be a struggle for rookies and veteran players to succeed in. What do you think, Jeremy?
Yeah, this is gonna be kind of hard. It's gonna be a new normal because the NFL is probably going to have the players wear masks and stuff because it is such a contact sport and it's so many players playing. And I think that little change could just make a big difference. Not the receivers and the running backs, but like players on the defensive line, like tackle and snapper. Those players could sweat and they could faint or something possibly. But like y'all said, the coaches and the players, the connection between them is very important, especially right now because the older players know the players that have had the coaches. They know what to expect and the plays and everything, and the younger guys don't. And the players and the teams that have new head coaches.
Yeah, I agree with what Alvin said, especially with the NFC East. We all know that the Dallas Cowboys have Super Bowl aspirations, but because of this, they might lose a couple games in the early season, and that might cause them to drift away from those expectations. The Eagles, I believe, have a leg up in this in terms of the coaching staff that they already have experience with, as with the other three teams have new ones. So I feel like that might be a problem for the other three teams. But we all know the Giants and the Redskins are rebuilding. This is really a big deal between the Eagles and Cowboys rivalry.
Plus the Cowboys are even in the middle of Dak Prescott contract. That's even a bigger case. So I don't
Yep.
think,
Yep.
yeah, Dak Prescott's gonna be holding out. I don't think Dak Prescott's been attending any of the Zoom meetings. So I think the Cowboys are gonna have to rely on Andy Dalton if Dak Prescott decides to hold out. But that is very unlikely because Dak Prescott said he's not afraid of the franchise tag.
Yeah. So that's something else to watch also.